Hi guys, today I'm painting these dining chairs and I thought I'd take a second and explain what kind of paint I'm using. Just so if you're home and you are trying to refinish your own furniture during this stuck at home period, that you maybe want to know what kind of paint I feel like is the best paint for different kinds of furnitures, and just give you a few tips on how to use it. So on these chairs, I decided to go with a black chalk paint. This is the Amy Howard brand, and I get it at Ace Hardware, as you can tell, which is really close to my house. I have tried other chalk paint brands, and I tend to go back to Amy Howard just because I feel like the consistency is really nice. It's not too thin. A lot of chalk paint tends to be really thin, but this one's actually not that thin, so it doesn't get as drippy, and it goes on really smooth, and you don't see as many brush strokes. So I'm using just Amy Howard in black. And the reason I decided to use chalk paint on these chairs is because, first of all, it's a million degrees and humid outside in Houston where I am, and having to paint outside is just basically not gonna happen right now. It's just a nightmare. And so the chalk paint is really low VOCs. It really almost doesn't even have a smell, and so it's really nice to use inside. No one complains about the smell, and it's just not as crazy messy and sticky and miserable as it would be if I were to paint outside. Another reason why I'm using chalk paint is because I didn't want to have to go through a lot of effort in stripping these down or sanding them. And chalk paint is really well known for adhering to almost any surface without any prep. So all I did was just wipe these down really well with mineral spirits and make sure they were really clean, and then I wiped them back over with just like a wet paper towel and let them dry just to get any gunk off or any, like, I don't know, residue. If you wanted to, although I don't think it's necessarily always needed, you could use like a liquid sander on a paper towel and wipe them down with that, just if you have like a really shiny surface and you want to give it some tooth before you go ahead with the chalk paint. That's another step. I actually didn't do that on these just because I felt like it didn't need it. The surface isn't super shiny. Also on these, I wanted to leave the caning natural, and so I wanted to be able to just get in there by hand with a paintbrush and get really close to this edge without going all over on to the natural caning. And the best way to do that, I found, is just with like a small brush, a tapered brush. This one is, let's see, there you go, the 1-inch tapered brush, and it's worked really well with the chalk paint. Normally when I've done dining chairs in the past, I really like to just spray paint because it's super quick, and if you're gonna paint everything one color, it seems like a good, easy option. But again, it's super hot outside. I don't wanna be out there. Spray paint would not dry very fast right now because it's so humid where I am. And I would have had to try to tape off this whole area that I wanna keep natural, and I just did not trust that that would actually work very well, and I really didn't want to risk getting any paint at all on this caning. So that's another reason why I chose to go the chalk paint route, and I'm really glad I did. So another great thing about chalk paint is it actually covers pretty well. This is one coat, and you can see it's a little bit streaky, but not too bad. And honestly, depending on the kind of style you want to go with, some of that wood grain coming through or some of that like underlying color coming through could lend to a good like distressed finish, and you may only need one coat. I am going to do another coat on these, so I think 2 coats will finish off all of these really nicely, and then I can decide whether I want to do any kind of distressing or not after the fact. The other thing I really like about chalk paint is you can actually use just regular polyurethane finish over the top to seal it. A lot of people think with chalk paint you have to use wax, and yeah, you can definitely use wax, and it takes a little bit more effort to use wax. And there are different kinds of waxes you can use. Like I know the Amy Howard brand has like dark wax and light wax and liming wax, and all those different waxes will give you kind of like a different sort of distressed finish. But if I say I wanted no distressing, like I didn't want any kind of discoloration settling in any of these grooves, and I just wanted like a really kind of matte, solid finish, I would just use a regular old polyurethane in either a satin or a matte, and just brush it on after I did my final coat and it was dry. The other thing about chalk paint I really love is it dries super fast. So I have 8 of these chairs, and you can see I've already done several. I think I only have a few more left to go on the first coat. But the chalk paint dries within like an hour, probably less, depending on just like where you have it and how thick you're putting it on. But so it makes it really quick to get through all of your coats. And I really love that because I just am the most impatient crafter person ever. So chalk paint, just drying time is just amazing to me. So my final thought is just that if you're going to be doing any kind of paint project during this sort of stay-home pandemic period in the summer, chalk paint is like the way to go for sure. You can do it inside, it's low VOC, you just put down your drop cloth, make sure you don't slop it all over, and you'll be really, really happy with the results. And you can finish it just like any other paint by using polyurethane, or you can get super fancy with the waxes that they have. But chalk paint is definitely the paint I would choose if you're having to refinish your furniture indoors.